And that's all.
Simon said after he finished showing their place around. Lael nodded and tried to make a smile. He was shown their weapons, traps, plans, and also their own food recipes, which made Lael a bit uneasy as Simon explained to him that those were especially for poisoning someone. Lael hoped he wouldn't be poisoned in the process, even though they said he didn't have any reason to be poisoned yet. Aiken also found out that he would be sleeping in an old mattress that belonged to one of them that night, but after it, he would have to take turns with one of them to stay vigilant during the night.
So, do you have any questions?
Simon tilted his head, walking off from Lael's new home. Lael followed him around. He gulped. He had so many questions that he wouldn't know where he should start. Aiken saw Nale cleaning his rifle where Edath was throwing knives at targets. Apparently, she was still clumsy at that, failing the target multiple times. Fortunately, the target wasn't near any of them.
Why do you guys trust me so much when you still barely know me?
Simon looked at him and made a half smile. Lael couldn't be sure if he was truly smiling or not, as his burnt part of the face wouldn't move much. He wondered what happened to cause that part of his face to be burned, not affecting his neck nor the rest of his visible body. Simon walked towards Nale and patted him in the head, tussling his hair. Nale looked up and frowned but shrugged it off and continued to do what he was doing.
Edath told us that you were trustworthy. So it's fine.
Just because of that?
Lael found himself asking.
You trust me just because someone simply said to? That's a little bit naive, don't you think?
Yep. Just because of that. You see.
Simon put his arm around Lael's shoulder and made him look to where Edath was still trying to hit the targets.
Even though she looks like a silly girl, she's not dumb at all. She's been studying people before I even met her, and I met her when she was around 6 years old. It might sound insane, but she has a really high emotional intelligence. She understands what I'm feeling, what you're feeling, and so on. She has a great control over her emotions as well. Well, except for her anger. She clearly has anger issues. But because of all that, Edath can understand when there's lack of emotion or when there are subtle changes on people's behavior. Adding to that, she also has learned micro-expressions, so in the end, she can easily understand when someone's lying, even if you're a good liar. If you were one, she'd already notice and would be harder for you to join us freely, like this.
Simon put his hands on his waist and smiled towards Edath, who managed to hit the center of the target and was celebrating by laying on the floor with a completely exhausted look.
Why did you decide to drift away from the rest? I mean, it seems like you're actually running from them.
We're retreating for now.
Simon interrupted while sitting on an improvised bench and looked to the stirred soil. Aiken followed his eyes to the soil.
Oh, there were actually more of you.
Lael concluded. Simon looked at him, surprised. Lael made a sympathetic smile before explaining himself.
I'm a detective. I formulate theories fast.
He shrugged. Simon nodded and made a sad half smile.
Good job, detective. Yes, that's true.
We were 10.
Edath suddenly popped up, cleaning the sweat from her forehead with her forearm.
4 nights ago, me, Nale, and the remaining people except Simon, who can't follow us in these missions, went out there to watch closely the events that were going on. There was someone who knew our identity, and they set up a trap in order to kill us.
She grabbed one of her braids and played with it, while continuing to speak.
They shot 3 of us just like that. I told everyone to retreat, but 2 of them tried to fight back. They ended up dead. Firo, Nale, and I managed to run away, but Firo was badly injured, and ended up dying 2 nights ago.
Edath clenched her fist and her jaw. She was consumed by guilt and disappointment.
After all, I was their leader, and I failed to protect them.
It's not your fault.
Of course it is. I was reckless and I miscalculated things. I ended up letting 6 people I really cared about being uselessly killed.
Her eyes had a strange fire on them, and her words were proclaimed with deep sorrow and self-blame. Lael looked down, unable to respond to something like that. Nale patted her head and moved his hands, signing something. Edath smiled and hugged him briefly.
What do you guys do to make people want you dead?
Long story short, as you might have seen, there are no rules in this shithole.
Edath pointed to their surroundings.
People are able to do anything they want, even if it means selling people, eating people, killing people, raping people, and whatever you want to add to the list. How can one live peacefully in this environment? Of course we want to end this. That's why we're trying to find people who might be able to fight this. It's not really easy to find those people, though. It's our society's beliefs and customs. We usually look out for people who seem to be deviants and that might actually be brave enough to defy this society. Because of that, we need to learn what we can do to end this. We go out there like normal villagers and blend in, but when we have to end someone's existence or rescue others, we won't share our face around, as you can imagine.
She sat on the floor and leaned back.
When you defy the normal behavior of a society, they will ostracize you, no matter how right you might be. We are prepared to die any moment, but we aren't heartless. Of course, it hurt us seeing our colleagues and friends getting killed in the process, but we need to keep moving forward.
But isn't killing them the same thing they're doing? It's wrong to kill, but you're willing to shoot them down in order to achieve your goal. Isn't that the same thing they're doing?
Lael got interrupted as Edath suddenly snapped and clenched her fingers around his neck, pushing him down, making him fall back to the ground. She looked at him, displeased. Lael never felt so much fear in his life like in that moment. Her eyes were so cold that he believed she'd kill him, right there, if she really wanted to. Nale and Simon hurried towards them and pulled Edath off Lael. Aiken was panting and recoiled while he softly massaged the area she pressed her fingers.
But we aren't heartless. Big words for someone who just tried to choke another for pointing out the obvious.
Simon was calming her down, making her look at him, but she wasn't looking to him. She was staring with a death expression to Lael.
Edath Naleg. Isn't that an anagram for Death Angel?
A thought suddenly popped up in Aiken's mind. He was sure her name was carefully chosen. He was pretty much sure now. After he saw her expression, he wouldn't forget it so soon. Nale checked on Lael to make sure he was fine. After Simon calmed her down, Edath took a deep breath and looked to Lael with an apologetic face. She wanted to give him a handshake, but halted. As she still saw his horror countenance, she sighed.
I'm sorry. You kind of made me remember of someone and it pissed me off. It's nothing personal, and I hope you can understand that.
She made a tiny ad smile.
I'm not someone who will try to kill my mates. Trust me.
Aiken nodded. Although those words sounded shallow after what he saw, trust is something he wasn't good at. He couldn't trust many people lately, not even himself.
Anyway...
Edath blushed and scratched the back of her head, obviously upset by her impulsivity.
I understand what you're saying. We're basically playing God when we decided when we'll end someone's existence. But in some cases, we've got to fight fire with fire. There will be no end to this unless there will be bloodshed. Unless we can make the easier influenced people come back to their senses and make the deviants join us, we won't be able to make a point and change this. We've been trying this for some years, but it's hard to make a dramatic change to a culture. We tried the nicest ways first, but as you can imagine, it didn't work. So we need to take new measures. I believe we can do it, or at least someone that will keep our will might be able to pull it off. But someday this will change, I'm pretty sure of it.
Edath smiled, confident.
I'm so sorry.
He clenched his fists. The reason they had to do that, the reason people were allowed to do everything, They seized a remote island to extradite people that would be too much of a pain to deal with and let them build their empire with their own rules. Which was the lack of them. He was afraid that they'd want him dead if they knew the true reason, but he decided to take a chance. It was not like he was expecting to survive much time in that place. Simon, Nale, and Edath were looking to him with a confused expression. Lael decided to tell them exactly what he thought. As he finished speaking, they all made a comprehensive smile.
We know that. We've been there too.
Now it was the time when Lael looked confused at them.
So, you weren't actually born here?
Nah, we were definitely born here. You see, your country didn't tell you the whole truth.
She folded her arms upon her chest before continuing.
We used to have permission to visit your country. We're not exactly legal, you see. But we arranged a way to go there.
Wait, you said you used to have permission?
Yeah, when there was someone else in charge. I mean, only our group could actually... Yeah, when there was someone else in charge. I mean, only our group could actually go there, not everyone. Because we were actually good guys and so on. But I don't believe that you will actually make it back.
Why? After all, we were kidnapped. They want us back.
Boy, you are quite naive, aren't you?
She sighed and put her hands on his shoulders before continuing.
You weren't brought here and got accidentally kidnapped for no reason. If you and your friends ended up here, it's because someone in your little department wanted to get rid of you. It's simple like that.
That's impossible! It doesn't make any sense!
I don't know. It's not like I know you or your teammates or even your superiors.
She dropped her hands from his shoulders and stretched her back.
I'd like to help you figure out the reason you were disposed, but unfortunately I can't. What I can give you is an opportunity to live here and help us make this a better place to live. If we can do that, we can also live here peacefully. I don't know if you have someone out there waiting for you, but the remaining world is as filthy as this place right now. If we can actually succeed, there will be no reason to come back.
Lael bit his lip.
She really has a different way of thinking. She's quite persuasive as well. When she speaks, it seems like she could drag anyone around to do anything she wants. I've got to be careful.
He thought as he nodded to her with agreement. Edath smirked.
Let's see what you can do.